И всем привет, с вами Николас. И сегодня мы начинаем играть в Стенли. Так. Тоже. Так, сейчас 5 секунд. ОБС что-то вылетело по стриме, так что это... Ну ладно. Трансляция пошла, надеюсь. Вроде да, ну что ж, продолжим. Так. Так, а когда мы куда вышли? А, вот отсюда мы, получается... Давай, мы вот так шли. Все в цифры, все в цифры. Ладно. Кружка. Чем он доехал? Так. Хороший цитат, ладно. Пойдем. Опа. Странные провода. Так. Чертежи какие-то, ладно. Угу. Чертежи, всякая хрень. Норм. Да, босс что-то вылетел, зараза, я не понял почему. Видать, он опасается Стенли, ну да. Почему не будет что открывать? Мне нужно походу ключ.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Дверь слева. Хочу я быстро на левый ход.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Тут что-то было очень плохое, потому что тут раскидано. Все раскидали. Только закрыто. Комп включен. Включен комп. Так, что у нас? Так, там у нас какая-то херотень. Не знаю, как называется. Обычный рабочий. Нет, это конференц. Ну, это зал, который мы подыскали, ну да ладно. Конференц-зал. Так, ладно. Как бывает. И не открываются. Это плохо.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the... But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Это было... Ладно, я не знал, что он... Что это не поехал. Я забыл, что он еще прыгать не умеет. Блин, бывает. Oh, все
A
заново.
soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started, and if it did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Слева, справа, знаешь. Пошли сюда, посмотрим, что тут.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Хочу зайцев показать. Дайте зайцев. Я тут вот прикрою, походу, да? Потом просто перейдет стоит. Так. О, бабки, на самом деле, эффект. Ничего не придумал. Кто знает английский, переводите по-братски. Я думал, он сможет прыгнуть, а он не прыгнул. Серьезно? Завис. А сейчас нормально все? Напишите, там нормально все, нет? Ребята, это плохо, если он завис. Блин. А сейчас все нормально, да?
Workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single minute. For no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. "I'm dreaming!" he yelled. "This is all a dream." What a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical star field, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this
Ну, это очень странно. Ну,
Вообще жесть. Полнейшая жесть. Вроде пошла опять трансляция, сейчас чекни.
о, запустилось.
Так,
На 7,
что?
на 74%
Now, hearing the voice
скачано.
speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After
Умерла.
all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream.
Фу.
Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that?
Yes.
This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
RedSpeed.
Ну,
Я думал, ты пропал. Говори там как.
Stanley
А,
began
с легким паром,
screaming.
кстати.
Please, someone, wake me
Спасибо,
up. My name is Stanley. I have a
Чем
boss, I
говорить-то?
have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I?
Сейчас, подожди.
And everything went black.
Трансляцию смотришь?
да. Да, смотрю, а что?
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed,
Кстати, эту
gathered
игру
her
хорошо.
belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the
Богдан, кстати, меня взяли в ту группу.
the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Не скажу.
Ну, рассказывай, что за группа.
Да мы угорали, короче. Потом будем говорить не на стриме и скажу.
Там Бодя написал что-нибудь?
Опять убили Гутера. Он мне написал, ты нашел самую скучную концовку. Ну, то есть я выиграл. То есть прошел ее и выиграл.
А в чем смысл данной
When
игры?
Stanley came to a set of two open, this was
Да,
not a
ходишь,
meeting room.
ходишь, ищешь разные концовки, угораешь. Он смешно пишет.
Just to admire it.
Вот и заново опять.
Yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Да фигушки он. Хочу узнать, что там дальше будет.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago.
Не заходи только в двери.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you forgot.
Если туда прыгну, не умру?
Please, stop trying to make
Если
every
мостик
decision
прыгну,
by
да, не умру?
yourself. Now, I'm not asking
Не
for
знаю.
I'm asking for her.
Я с этого мостика не прыгну.
Stanley, your chance to
Я
redeem
знаю, что если туда
yourself,
прыгнуть, то
to
сдохнешь.
put
А
your
если
work
на мостик
aside,
попасть?
to let her back into your life.
Я на мостике там ни разу не был.
Мне кажется,
Прыгни на лестницу.
Ай, блин.
Он тебе сказал, спрыгни на лестницу.
Ну, поздняк. Сейчас сам что-нибудь разберу, что-нибудь замутю, так. Ну, темно, не пойду туда. А жесть. А можно на этом поездить?
Нет, прыгни с разбега.
Он не умеет прыгать.
Ну, просто спустись.
That's her, Stanley.
Да, и
You need to be the one. Oh, no, you can't. Did you just unplug the phone? No, that wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that? You actually chose incorrectly? I didn't even know that was possible. Let me double check. No, it's definitely here. Correct. Stanley picks up the phone. He's taken to his apartment where he finds his wife, and the two pledge themselves to one another. Music comes in, fade to white, roll credits. Not picking up the phone is actually somehow an incorrect course of action. How is that even possible? None of these decisions were supposed to mean anything. I don't understand. How on earth are you making meaningful choices? What did you... Wait a second. Did I just see... No, that's not possible. I can't believe it. How had I not noticed it sooner? You're not Stanley. You're a real person. I can't believe I was so mistaken. This is why you've been able to make correct and incorrect choices. And to think I've been letting you run around in this game for so long. If you'd made any more wrong choices, you might have negated it entirely. It's as though you completely ignored even the most basic safety protocol for real-world decision-making. Or did you not grasp the severity of the situation? Well, I won't have that kind of risk on my watch. I'm going to stop the game for a moment so we can educate you properly on safe decision-making in the real world. Please observe this helpful instructional video.
Choice. It's the best part of being a real person, but if used incorrectly, can also be the most dangerous. For example, in this
Не, я уже выдернул провод.
scenario, a hypothetical real person named Stephen has a choice. He could spend years helping improve the quality of life for citizens of impoverished third world nations. Or he could systematically set fire to every orphan living in a 30-kilometer radius of his house. Which choice would you make? Remember that unlike here, the real world makes sense, and at no time should you make a choice that does not conform to rational logic. If you find yourself speaking with a person who does not make sense, in all likelihood, that person is not real. Allow the person to finish their thought.
Ну давай. Второй мне крючок. Давай.
Excellent. Making choices on a regular basis is the best part to a healthy decision-making process. Most medical professionals recommend making at least 8 choices per day. Do you make more than 8? Less? And finally, if you begin to wonder if your choices are actually meaningful and whether you'll ever make a significant contribution to the world, just remember that in the vast infiniteness of space, your thoughts and problems are materially insignificant, and the feeling should subside.
Знаешь что?
At this time, your instructor will
Может,
guide you
я
in an
добавлю
exercise
Богдана
to
в Дискорд?
test and reinforce the material covered in this video.
Давай сейчас сделаю кое-что и добавлю. Бойди, ты просто зайди в Дискорд.
But not to worry. Now that you're properly informed on good decision-making, we're going to revisit a choice you made just a few minutes ago and see what the correct thing to do would have been. This way, please.
Понятно. Сразу с решеткой. Может, только не спрыгнул, что ли? Тут что-то должно быть как раз. Почему прыгать надо? Разные
Now that we know your choices are meaningful, we can't have you jumping off the platform and dying. Imagine the main character dying senselessly halfway through the story. That story would make no sense at all. We just need to get you home as soon as possible before the narrative contradiction gets any worse. Unfortunately, it seems this place is not well equipped to deal with reality.
Я пошел. Тут какая-то ключ-карта нужна. Мне ключ-карту найти. Ключ-карта, наверное, вот тут есть. А если зайду, он закроется, да? Да, где?
Короче, Бодя тебе написал, типа, передай ему. Если игра скучная, поиграй в другой. Игра на любителя. Но мне лично понравилась эта игра. Прикольно.
Я что-нибудь замучу здесь.
Так я тоже первый раз в Боде играл, не знал, но мне понравилось. Там прикольные концовки есть. И прикольные эти пишут.
Дверь слева нам кто-то нужен. А если там я не пойду дверь слева? Бесконечный коридор.
Now remember, all you need to do is behave exactly as Stенli would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stенli came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back in the other direction. Perhaps we're not too late.
Искаженный, я хочу. Понятно. Я ничего не сделал. Ладно. Давай на кого-то отбираю.
Oh, it's ruined. I can't believe, after everything we talked about, that my story, you've destroyed my work. Why? What? For what? What did you get out of that? What did you think was so special about seeing the game undone? Left here like so much garbage. It's worthless now. And what am I supposed to do? Even if there were a way to continue, would it be worth it? To know that my story is now incorrect? How can I go back to that? I can't erase that knowledge. I'll have to live with it forever, reliving its impossibility forever. I couldn't live that way. Is it better to shut the game down entirely? To willingly destroy all of my work? I don't know. What's the answer? What do I do? What do I do? What do I... No, I have to. I have to shut the game down. I have to. I have to.
Типа концов.
Чё?
Он выключил игру.
Не понял.
Игру выключил.
А.
I'm here. I'm still here. Here in this pile of rubbish. With you. You. Who thought you were so clever.
Кстати, хочешь посмотреть на это?
My entire game
На
is
боди.
destroyed. It was the only thing in the world that was mine, and you
Контакт
running
ко мне
it
зайди.
around. What, did you think that would be funny? You just had to see? Didn't I impress upon you how important it was to be like Stanley? He actually knows how to do what I tell him to. He understands that if I say to do something, there's a damn good reason for it. That thought hadn't even occurred to you, had it? That there's a world outside of you? You're a child. Oh, my story. If you'd just gone through the door on the left, you would have seen it. There was a whole underground facility. You would have destroyed it and been victorious. It would have been so perfect. I worked so hard on it. I tried so hard.
Че ты угораешь?
Стрим не смотришь?
А, не, я
Exactly as
слушаю.
Steve would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All
Еще
right.
20% скачаться
When
осталось.
Stanley came to a set of two open doors,
20%
the
осталось.
door on his
Нормально,
left.
нормально.
Нормально.
Окей, слева, окей. Зашел слева. Окей, дальше, что тут у нас?
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping he might, coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ну ладно, хорошо. Ух ты. Чётенько.
Stepping inside his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, until he saw the door with a voice receiver next to it. Surely behind this door lay all the answers to his questions. And beyond all probability, he knew the passcode. He had seen it on his boss's computer just last week. Nightshark 115. Was this the code to open the door? Would it still work? There was only one way to find out. Stanley had been trained never to speak up, but now he would draw from within himself the courage to face the unknown. He drew a sharp breath and then spoke the code. Stanley spoke the code. Nightshark 115. He spoke it into the receiver, right there on the wall. I'm sorry, is there a problem? You didn't mishear me, did you? Please speak the code into the receiver. Otherwise we can't get on with the story. This is a crucial step. Okay, fine, you're not going to do it, but you know what? It's pretty humiliating to bring you this far, only for you to suddenly decide you have better things to do. I asked you for this one single thing, for your respect. The kind of respect Stanley shows for his choices. He knows what it means to take a story seriously. If you didn't want to see what I had to show you, then why did you come here? You had a choice, you know. You could have gone through the door on the right. You could have done whatever the hell you wanted over there. Why did you come this way? Speak. Say something to me. Explain yourself, you coward. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Stanley? Hello?
Хошь прикол.
Is everything okay?
Да.
У меня эта муха за мышкой гоняется. По экрану вообще дико.
Так. Потом это... Трансляция не легла.
Stanley, please. I
Нет,
make a choice. I need you to walk through the door.
разговариваю.
Are you listening to me?
Прям конкретно разговариваю.
Is everything all right? Stanley, this is important.
Что, закончил игру? Серьезно?
The story needs you. It needs you to make a decision.
Чего играл?
It cannot exist without you. Do you understand me? Whatever choice you make is just fine. They're both correct. You can't be wrong here. We can work together. I'll accept whatever you do. I simply need you to take that step forward, please. Choose. Do something. Anything. This is more important than you can ever know. I need this. The story needs it. So, you hear me? Are you there? Are you listening to this? Stanley, are you there? Okay. It's okay, I can wait. You need me.
Это главная оригинальная концовка.
Time to decide.
Yep.
Time to make sure your choice is correct. That is the best
Правильная
choice.
оригинальная концовка.
That's all right.
Угу.
I'll wait for you to decide what's the right thing to do. Take as much time as you need.
Я это... Ты выключу, а то вроде долго.
А?
Я стрим, говорю, выключу.
А, выключишь? Где там в Discord пойдет, да? Так, выходим и идем дальше.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. What was it about this room that called so? But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful.
Чё?
Let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
Да я спрыгнул там в кофейне.
Ага.
Так. Вниз.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Может, если я в красный пойду, там будет оригинальная концовка, да?
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red.
Я просто иногда плохо слышно.
I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the... All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into it? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of...
Окей, продолжаем.
What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me, you've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what, let me take a stab in the dark at a new design and you can give me some feedback. There we go, a third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley, take it for a spin. Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here. Aha! You see, I knew I was onto something. Where do these flashes of inspiration come from? How did I know the game needed a third door? Well, it's instinct mostly, a calling in your gut. I really couldn't say where the idea came from, except that I felt in my soul. You can't teach that, Stanley. Don't even try. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look. Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please. Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up.
Есть текста. Ладно, дальше идем. Так держись.
In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience. You heartless bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out, I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game, just to ease the pain? Let's see. What do we have here? Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
Богдан, я твой чат, я чат, к сожалению, не вижу, но я смотрю, вот там как раз вот пауза такая. Опа.
Well, Stanley, is this any better? At last, the one thing you've always desired. A game I had absolutely nothing to do with. But is it enough? Tell me that, Stanley. Will it ever be enough? Well, I'll say this. I'm done making things for you. From now on, I will only create to fulfill a greater artistic purpose. Watch this, Stanley. I'm going to build a house. This will go here, no, here, and then... Let's see, what does it need? Yes, of course, and just to finish it all off, yes, it's complete. I made this, Stanley. Look at it. Gaze upon my work of art and feel ashamed at your own inadequacy. Ah, but you've only seen it from the outside. You've only gotten half the experience. Please, step inside and make yourself comfortable. Isn't it grand? Isn't it perfect? It could only be better if... Wait, that's it. We must rebuild it out of diamond. Diamond everything. Yes, yes, yes. Come along, Stanley. We have to go mining.
Ладно, вот так. Никогда в своей жизни не играл в Майнкрафт.
Oh my, it looks like it's going to get a bit dark. Have you brought a light? Oh, no. This is far more open-ended than I had in mind. I'm looking for something more narrow and linear. Something that makes you feel utterly irrelevant. This won't do at all. 1 out of 5. Even the diamonds couldn't save this one. Okay, new game.
Понятно.
Yes, I don't even know what this game is, but I love it. You, trapped in a glass box with no way out, listening to me talk. Oh, it's inspired. I couldn't have done it any better myself. What is this game even supposed to be? I can't figure it out. Okay, now I'm curious. Let's go find out what the hell this is.
Спрячем сюда. Сделал. Спрятать надо. Тоже. Я ее раздвину, ну ладно. Это я не собой уже. Стой. Ладно, что дальше? Да, попал. Просто здесь все одно и то же. Из-за технологий этих. О, ящичек.
It's a puzzle. Critical thinking, Stanley. Your forte. Genius. No, actually, you know what? I think that's plenty. I really don't care much to see you stumble through any more of these games, and I highly doubt you're any wiser for the experience. Which is why, rather than continue to waste my time, I'm just going to leave you here. You can pretend you've beaten the game if it makes it any richer for you, but as for me, I've had enough. So,
Как-то нифига не видно. Я реально нифига не вижу. Здесь что-то видно. О! Окей. Так, и что бы мне? В смысле?
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it, down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice, and if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon.
Yeah.
I can wait.
Я бы тоже продолжал стримить поиграть. Окей, допустим. Так. Загрузка. Так, что нас там ждать? Интересно. Какая игра заходит? Не сильно, но заходит. Ага, все заново.
How long was I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes? Days? Centuries? Did something crucial happen while my senses were turned? He made a note to be more careful with time from now on. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Что есть? Что интересное, новенькое?
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Неужели все заново? Все заново? Ничего интересного, я так понимаю. Дверь закрыта. Реально все заново? Давай удачи. Спасибо за игру. Я, наверное, тоже сейчас заканчиваю.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Я вам передам, если что. Так. Вот такая игра. Мне понравилось.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs, trying to input anything on the device.
Что ж, сохраним тогда ее. Ну, ладно. Всем спасибо за просмотр, ставьте лайки, подписывайтесь. Вы самые лучшие.